Welcome to the brush. This is the part 2 of the 5th daily, so I'm just carrying on where I left off. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Morglass bone and lightly dry brush this over the Levdon blue that I've already put down on the priest. You'll understand once it's dry why I've done that. So just wetted a small dry brush. I'm just trying to pick out the highest points for what comes next. So we're going to put a different contrast colour over the top, one of my favourites, and I think that will accentuate the robes and it will do the job we want. So just trying to pick out some of the robes. Some raised surfaces are particularly important for this step. And yes, it does look a little chalky in places, hopefully not too much. I'm just trying to accentuate the folds in some places. And trying to focus on the highest points for this. Right, I'm going to leave him to dry. I'll come back to him in a minute. I will have to go and change the water very quickly after this, as we are going to switch into the metallics. I'm going to take some lead belcher. Again, wetted brush, it's not completely dry. A little bit of the lead belcher onto it. These were ones that I'd done previously. These are his waist pads. Fits around his side, so I'm just going to give him a dry brush with lead belcher, because what I've realised is that I do need to darken them all down a little bit further, and I'd rather get them looking a little bit more uniform and get rid of some of the colour runs before I put anything else over the top. So I want to try and erase some of these poolings that have occurred. So I'll probably have to come back and give that another coat in just a sec. The other one's come off the pin that I'd put it on. Probably a little bit too heavy. Never mind. It will help get rid of this excess we've got on him. That's those bits. Now I need to do these shoulder pads. This should be easier because this wasn't as dark to start with. I suppose some people would call what I'm doing at the moment slap chop, because I'm using alternative layers of base colour and contrast to build up a gradient of colour. I know some people refer to that as slap chop. Honestly, I don't know. I think slap chop is a poorly termed phrase for something that is more or less repeating steps of ink glazes and base colours. It's more or less the same thing, just you're using these particular colours. No, I'm not sure I agree. If the label helps, then yeah, but I wouldn't know where I stop at slap chop and where I start at dry brush, or where I start at highlighting or glazing, or I tend to blend all of the techniques together. So it loses its definition at that point. I've covered that one. Come back to the one on the pin. It's just, it evens out the colour, especially if you get bleeding from the contrast. If you can get a colour that's very close to your contrast colour, you can blend out any of the mistakes that you get with the contrast, especially if you're going to dry brush over it or sponge over it or something similar. It all helps. You don't have to correct every mistake right there and then. Sometimes you do, especially if you're doing detailed work. You might have to swamp and wash off, but a lot of the time with the base colours, you make small mistakes. You can correct them later in the paint job. You get a little bit of moisture on the brush. Take some of that back out. That kind of helps me stop it getting chalky. So I'll go towards the top if I can with this. Try to keep the same pattern as I have with the other Necrons, where the lighter point is at the top, the darker point is at the bottom. I don't know if you can see there that gravity's done a lot of the work on the contrast for us, making each section lighter at the bottom, or lighter at the top and darker at the bottom. Not ignoring the front or back of the leg either. Obviously what I don't want, I've got to do on all of them. Try and keep it a little bit lower, it's a bit better in focus. leave that leg there. Come back to these ones. I just need to do the sockets. So that'll do for that. Get the brush on first. So this next step, I'm going to tackle this priest. I'll have to go and change my water in a sec. So we're going to take some Volpus Pink now. I'm going to use it neat from the tub. And we're going to go over all of the sections of the robe that we've already done. So I can see what I'm doing a little better. I'm going to turn off this light. I am not blinding you on the lens. Because the colours we've based this with, we started with that Zanju dust, then dry brushed it up with Morghast bone, then a little bit of Wraith bone, before putting that first layer of Levdon blue over the top of it, then letting that dry, then coming back at it with the Morghast bone, and you'll see you get this very rich imperial looking purple as a result of it, and we shouldn't need to do any further highlighting over the top of this once we're done. Hopefully you can see we've got these very rich, vibrant robes. I shouldn't need to do any more to his clothing. I'll leave him to dry. I'll bring him back up into focus for you. Hopefully you can see that. I'll turn him around. You get a bit of view. When he dries, that will look quite visually stunning. There's a lot of depth in that. So whilst I wait for that to dry, I'm going to take some wildwood. Actually, I need to go and change my water. I'll be back in a sec. Alright, just clean the palette off, take a little bit of water, take some Lamia medium, just to stop it getting shiny. And I'm going to take some wildwood. I'm not going to mix any rattling grime with it this time. I want to get to a more bronze colour rather than it going black. So I might have to mount a few pieces. So let's just put it on one of my painting stands. Make sure the edges are done. Not worried about the underside so much. Just want to make sure that that's done. That's that one. And again, because I'm using contrast, I'm trying to be quite quick, which is why sub-assemblies are so helpful. The quicker I move the brush, the more I can work a larger wet edge. So again, that one's done. Hopefully I haven't pressed my finger into the edge of that. No, I missed it. Leave that dry. I'm going to tackle the inside edge of the shoulder pad first. Get that out of the way. I'm not likely to put my finger on the inside of the shoulder pad. The outside is more of a risk of me accidentally putting my finger on it, so I'll do the inside first. Hopefully, so you can see I make mistakes and I wash them off. So wet brush. And that's more or less gone. I can live with that. So now the top side. So this is wildwood over lead belcher, and you get quite an effective bronze. It's not the same bronze that I've done for the bodies on the Necron Warriors or any of the other Necrons that I've used, but as I've gone for a reverse, I thought I'd do it a slightly different way. So I'm going to have to leave him a dry like that. Again, I'm trying to take advantage of the effect of gravity in the way that contrasts will flow under gravity to the lowest point. Again, I have taken note of the popularity of the Death Guard Saturnine. I have figured the public rather likes those, so there will be some more Saturnines coming down the road later in the week once we get Illuminor Szeras out of the way. I decided I will go back and work on the others. And yes, that is plural. There are more than one. And that's not a bad colour match for the Warp Block bronze and Castellax bronze that have been put down as the base colour on the essential body. So you wouldn't really know that they were different colours. Just make sure I'm getting this inside edge. Don't want that showing through at a later point. So again, I'm going to stand him up like that to leave him to dry. And now I've got to tackle the legs. I'm not going to worry about ball sockets, I just want the actual legs themselves gone over. And because we've already done a base layer of lead belcher, then washed it with rattling grime and wildwood, and then dry brushed it back up to lead belcher, when we put this layer on, although we're putting it back over the whole miniature or the whole leg armature that we painted with lead belcher, hopefully the previous layer of contrast will help accentuate that divergence between the top and the bottom, especially when we come back in and maybe give it a final highlight with some more lead belcher. It will give that tonal quality that the bottom is darker than the top. You see it most obviously here, this bit's lighter than this bit. So again, hopefully as this goes over it, we get that transition where the base looks even darker, and with the final highlight we should get quite a gradation from the bottom to the top. There's a couple of little mistakes I'll have to correct with some Wraithbone later. It's not too problematic. We're going to have to use some Agrax to darken the recesses on those bits at some point anyway, so but yeah, I'm quite happy with that one. Start on the back legs. Right, I missed a bit there. Never mind. Right, those legs need to be left to dry. And as it was the archaeologist that was requested, it's the archaeologist that's going to get done. So this will be the bit that I get done on camera today. The rest of them I'll probably finish off tomorrow. So I'm going to start with some marine mist from Army Painter. And I'm just going to paint this on the big coils on the back. Now, the only colours we've got on here at the moment to start with, the model was based with lead belcher and then has had a wash of rattling grime. The red is corn red, it was put down next, and then over the top of the corn red has gone some retributor gold, and those are the only colours I've used so far. I can't really see what I'm doing with this. So I'm trying to make sure I get it into the deepest creases. Not too worried about the topper edge, because we're going to put another colour over the top of that in just a sec. And again, I should have painted this in bits. So I'm making my life more difficult trying to paint it assembled. Just try and make sure that we got enough of that covered. Have we got all of that on that side? Yeah, the other side, no. We've got enough of that covered that you can't see the back of it. It's a little bit up here that I haven't managed to get to. You won't see it on camera because I'm having to get behind the gun. Right, that will do for that. What we're going to do now is we're going to mix some hydro turquoise into that marine mist that we've already got on the palette. So those are the colours I'm mixing. Some marine mist into some hydro turquoise. So I'm happy I've got a midpoint between the two that was there. And that'll do. Switch brushes. I'm going to take a small Army Painter dry brush, moisten the brush again, into the mix of the two. I'm just coming for the edge. At this stage, I don't mind if it gets a little bit flared out. It kind of looks like a light effect at that point. I'll try and come back the other way as well. It's starting to get a little chalky. It's not what I want ideally. So that'll count as the first pass. Now what I'm going to do is mix some more of the Hawk turquoise in. So I'm not quite at Hydro turquoise at the moment. Take a lot of it off. I'm just trying to catch the edge now. I think we might have got more than the edge with that. Yes, it does look quite scrappy at the moment. That's the whole point. I need to get behind that gun, otherwise it looks too bright compared to the rest of it. Alright, now I'm going to go for more or less neat Hawk turquoise or Hydro turquoise. But I'm going to mix a darker blue still in. I'm going to use a little bit of Abyssal blue. It's in the same colour family, so it should work. Don't need very much of it at all. Try to take it just that fraction darker. You can already see that the inside of that is much lighter than the outside, so we've already got some kind of glow going on there. And when we come to finishing the model off, we'll put some white ink in there to just accentuate that even further. But I'm going to call it there, otherwise this video is going to run on too long today. I have been the Adept of the Brush. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you've seen, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I shall see you tomorrow. Thank you. Goodbye.